wanted to say that this is probably one of the most critical matters that stands before our society for a number of reasons. One very important reason from an economic standpoint is that undocumented people are going to account for all the increase in the workforce. Not just part of it, all of it. The economists point that out over and over again. In addition to that, it is very difficult. Yes, the DREAM Act has to be forthcoming, and I hope forthcoming soon. But there's a lot of resistance to it, politically. And the fact is that when young people come to college, if the application form is not filled out in certain careful ways, in legitimate ways, but carefully rendered ways, they're suddenly confronted with having to pay out-of-state tuition, which is absolutely impossible for them to pay. And all of us know many, many students who've gone through the community college and then they hit it over, they got accepted to Berkeley, for example, or UCLA, and then suddenly, because they're undocumented, they were asked to pay the out-of-state tuition, which was impossible for them. And so you find yourself scurrying around trying to get money from foundations and donors and so on to make it possible for them to have that first year in the university of their dreams. But even when they come to the community colleges, there are 109 of them in our state, there are still hurdles in the application process that have to be very carefully managed. So you've got to come to a place where that kind of counseling, that kind of advice, that kind of support is there for you.
Now we're going to switch over to teacher unions. Next question will be from Maribel Osuna.
Hello, my name is Maribel Osuna. I am studying the role of teacher unions in the job market crisis. This question is directed to Dr. Pat Gemma and Mr. James Wilcox. My thesis is, fortunately, teacher unions protect teachers, but this should be changed so aspects like teacher tenure and liability contracts do not prevent student achievement. Ultimately, the student should be taken into consideration before teacher contract. Teacher unions make positive changes and negative ones as well. What is the most effective way that teacher unions can spark positive change?
I've made this comment to our union president a couple of times. I think that he's an excellent educator, I might add, and I think somebody that I have a great deal of respect for as an educator. I think teacher unions today, and I'll speak just to California, would do well to say to the public, we get behind quality teachers in every classroom. And we get behind that by agreeing to be part of the evaluation process. And we get behind it to the notion that we don't need tenure. We can be judged by our peers and by our superiors in a fashion that indicates that we are professionals and we are working as a team for the purposes and the mission of that school and the district that they work with and work for. Having said that, I believe this when I started in the field, and I believe it today. Teachers are not the problem. Teachers are the solution to the problem. And I support the notion of teachers being able, as a group, to meet with the employer, in this case the school district, and say, hey, what's the contract? What are the parameters around which I am going to work? What will be my compensation so that I don't have to worry about my own children at home in terms of health care or in terms of the amount of money I make, such that I can raise my own family and concentrate on the students that I'm working with. Pay me a fair salary, pay me, have a working condition that is reasonable and one in which I can do my job. And for that, what I will give you is excellence. And again, I guess going back to a specific answer to your question, I think the most important thing that the teachers union can do is to join hands with school leadership and say, hey, let's work together to make sure every classroom has the best teacher possible.
I think it's a really tough question. At Aspire, we don't have a teachers union, so we try to build an organization, and I think in most ways we've succeeded, where we really believe a lot in conversations between adults and respect across our organization, our team, and trying to keep an open door so that hopefully forever our organization will be one where the teachers say we don't need a union. We can have our voices heard and serve students at the same time, and we don't need somebody between people like me and the teachers to intervene for us to help us communicate. So that's a fresh start that we were able to pursue as an organization that started as a new organization only 10 years ago. So it was an advantage we had. I would point to an organization that's like Aspire that's in Los Angeles called Green Dot Public Schools. And you asked what the teachers unions can do to help this problem and just to help students. I think, in my opinion, they can do what the teachers union did at that organization. So again, it was an organization that had the opportunity to be started fresh. They were new like Aspire about 5 or 6 years ago, I think. And what they did was they got together and said, we don't want to be an organization that doesn't have a union. We want to be an organization with a union that's different. And so what the teachers did was they got together and said, let's have a union, but what we're going to do is, and they did this with the founders of the organization, we're going to agree that we're going to find a way on the budget to pay ourselves 10% more than whatever the local district, in this case Los Angeles Unified, is paying their teachers. So let's eliminate the pay issue right off the bat. In exchange for that, we're going to agree to 1-year contracts, which basically means that if the teacher is not doing the job that the students need that teacher to do and not succeeding with the student, then that teacher's contract is over and is not renewed. And so it's tenure, but it's tenure for 1 year. So to answer your question, I think it goes back to 2 things. At that school, they're very, very, very transparent about their work, teaching and learning, and the results that are being achieved in the classroom. And so every teacher in those schools knows what every other teacher is doing well and what they're not doing so well. And what that allows is conversations to be happening like happen at our schools and lots of other schools that are very transparent around what people help the teachers need, just like the help the students need, and what they know how to do well and what they need help learning how to do so that you succeed. And so that's one thing and one example where it's been a very, very different approach that the adults have taken on the students' behalf. And unions are involved.
Next question from Antonio Velasco on charter schools.
Hi, my name is Antonio Velasco and I'm studying the charter school system. This question is directed to Dr. Pat Gemma and Mr. James Wilcox. According to a recent newspaper article titled East Palo Alto Charter Schools Boosting Students' Performance by Jessica Bernstein, who is here tonight, a new San Mateo County Civil Grand Jury report indicates East Palo Alto charter schools have improved students' performance in the district. When charter schools started to emerge, original public schools were losing students and teachers who moved to charter schools. Since then, many people view charter schools as a threat to the public school system for the financial reasons. How has the charter school movement influenced how Ravenswood, Sequoia, and Palo Alto districts run their systems?